Welcome to Pursuit Summer 2024 release event. I'm Mike Vichik. At Pursuit, we have product release events every 3 months. Our goal is to share the most awesome new tech that we've been working on that will help you find and win more public sector opportunities. To that end, in our winter release this past February, we shipped our first ever AI solution that reads public websites and extracts contact information. We also shipped our integrations that push that contact data directly into your CRM. Then, in our spring release this past May, we massively upgraded that same contacts product. We added confidence scores, which tell you how likely it is that a given contact still holds their role today. This made it possible to clean up years worth of incorrect data in your CRM in an instant. We also added support not just for municipalities, but also counties, K-12, and higher ed. And we shipped our first ever machine learning model to calculate win probabilities. It's blown our wildest expectations out of the water. Stay tuned to my interview with Drew Leach, VP of Business Development at Granicus, in just a moment. Also, in our spring release just 3 months ago, we added our pipeline product. And this allows public sector go-to-market teams to fully outsource their pipeline generation to Pursuit. But today, it's all about Pursuit's Summer 2024 release. We can't wait to show you what we've been working on. Before we dive into that, though, I want to zoom out for just a sec. Why did Brandon Max and I start Pursuit in the first place? After we sold our last company, I met with the mayor of a town near where I live. The mayor explained to me that tax revenue for that town grows at low single digits most years, usually 2%, whereas costs grow at 3 to 5x that rate, 8, 10, 12% sometimes. My mind was blown. I couldn't help but imagine what that would mean as a private company. If you do that for long enough, it means bankruptcy. As we kept digging into why costs were accelerating so quickly, contracting was one of the issues that came to the fore. So we kept digging deeper. After studying the issue and talking with people who've spent their entire careers in both the public sector and in government contracting, we've come to a simple problem statement. Ironically, the rules that were intended to ensure that taxpayer money was well spent actually guarantee it's wasted. Said differently, the rules become a barrier to entry. A barrier to entry that advantages incumbents. It makes it harder for innovative, young, or growing companies to compete. New entrants often don't know the ins and outs of procurement rules, nor do they know the players, nor do they know the process. And as a consequence, these companies grow more slowly than they otherwise need to. Sometimes, often without even thinking, a private sector company won't even consider the public sector as a potential customer. Pursuit's mission is to change all of that. Our mission is to make sure that the best contractors are the ones who win, not just those who are most deeply embedded. We care massively about our country. We want our kids to live in a country where we still build, where we solve big, important problems related to climate, or to education, or to healthcare, or infrastructure. We see Pursuit as a force multiplier for all of those projects. But now, let's move on to the summer release. When I speak with CEOs and CROs of GovTech companies, I often ask them to do a thought experiment. Teleport yourself 4, 6, 8 quarters into the future, ahead of where we are now. And let's assume for a second that you didn't hit your revenue targets. What are the most likely reasons why that happened? The most common things I hear about often come back to pipeline. Some people will explicitly say, we didn't drive enough pipeline. Others, they'll say, a few key deals didn't get across the finish line, which in my view is another way of saying we didn't drive enough pipeline. A mentor of mine once told me, if you're upset about any one deal, that means you don't have enough deals. Pursuit's Summer 2024 release makes it so that companies selling into the public sector never worry about pipeline again. So today, we're introducing 3 all-new features that make it 100x easier to find opportunities in the public sector. First, entity and document summaries. Second, structured data extraction. And third, chatting with an entity's documents. Let's dive in.
There's a wealth of information available on each public entity in the USA. Strategic plans, budgets, ACFRs, past RFPs, contracts, POs, meeting transcripts, and a multitude of department-specific plans, climate, emergency management, police, fire, transportation, and so on. The trouble is that it's been way too costly to have people read and digest this information at any level of scale. Not anymore. Today, Pursuit makes it 100 times easier to find out what matters to every public entity in the USA. What's changed in their budgets, what problems they're discussing in meetings, what their strategic plans say, and when their contracts are expiring. There are 3 core parts of Pursuit's product. 1. Chat with an entity or a document. Pursuit is now your guy on the inside. If you're at a conference or preparing for a call and you want to quickly get up to speed on a public entity's priorities, Pursuit's your answer. In the Pursuit app, you can chat with all the documents of an entity, just a particular document type, like an ACFR or budget, to see what's changed year to year, or just a single document, like a climate plan, to see what their priorities are. 2. Entity and document summaries. Ever stumble onto a 500-page ACFR and think, I can't wait to read every page? Yeah, no one did. Now imagine having over 100 prospects in your sales territory and needing to read each one. Fat chance. Didn't happen. Now you don't need to. Pursuit creates simple document summaries, including the key initiatives and facts from each report. The best part is that these summaries are not generic. They're specific to each individual client of Pursuit's. Our system combines our knowledge of each of our clients to extract the summary information that's most relevant to you. We can summarize an individual document, or all of the documents we have available on an entity. 3. Structured data extraction. Similarly, if there is a set of data you want to extract from every document, say the ACFR, it's easy. For starters, Pursuit can extract fiscal year-end, auditing firms, budget data, and importantly, SPITA, or subscription-based IT arrangements, aka SaaS contracts. It shouldn't surprise anyone that entities who spend on software now are more likely to spend on software in the future. Best of all, Pursuit can do this for every municipality, county, K-12 district, higher ed institution, and special district in the USA. Now, there's no excuse to walk into a meeting with a public entity without fully understanding their situation, problems, and goals. In fact, it's easy to know their situation as well, or better, than they do. Pursuit makes it easy for public sector reps to match up their prospects' goals, pain, and priorities with the solutions their company offers.
Awesome. Next up, we're moving beyond research to actually building pipeline. If you take one thing away from today's release, make it that Pursuit is built for sellers. The next set of features are designed to help reps 100x their pipeline generation. Let's take a look at how we're helping with email, phone, and conference talk tracks.
Pursuit's all-new pipeline generation tools are built solely for public sector go-to-market teams. Designed to increase rep pipeline generation productivity by 100 times, Pursuit automatically suggests content to be used in outbound prospecting, such as email, phone calls, and at conferences. Here's how it works. First, Pursuit reads the website, sales materials, and other documents for each of its customers, building an understanding of their product, services, case studies, use cases, and so on. Second, Pursuit reads the content of each public entity, such as a municipality, higher ed institution, or special district's strategic plan, budgets, ACFRs, past RFPs, contracts, and meeting transcripts. Then, Pursuit mashes up the two to create hard-hitting content that sellers can use to generate pipeline. Here are some examples. Imagine you're the sales rep at a budgeting and planning GovTech company, and Enbridge Public Schools is in your territory. You want to quickly get up to speed on the district, so you ask Pursuit to summarize their board meeting transcripts to pull out highlights that are relevant to your company. In the Pursuit app, you pull up Enbridge Public Schools and tap the Chat with Entity button. Then you ask Pursuit to summarize board meeting transcripts from 2023 onwards. Again, Pursuit knows that you want information that's most relevant to your budgeting and planning software. In the app, the UI summary returns. In March, Enbridge Public Schools board meetings discussed a surprise budget shortfall of $25 million. This issue surfaced after an outgoing superintendent left the district. The board, new superintendent, and finance department, along with the union representatives, will all likely have a vested interest in a better budgeting approach. That seems like a relevant thing to discuss. You can then ask Pursuit to draft a multi-thread email sequence to send to all relevant stakeholders. The app will then generate emails for the board president, the incoming superintendent, the finance department, and the union president. Just copy and paste each of these into your email system of choice and send them on their way. Here's another example: cold call scripts. Let's say that you're a seller for a company who sells license plate recognition software into law enforcement agencies. The IACP conference is coming up this October. In the lead up to the conference, you want to fill your calendar with as many one-on-one meetings as possible. So, you receive the attendee and speaker list, which reveals that, for example, the chief of police at your prospect Emberidge Police Department is scheduled to speak. You can send customized email, as we just showed in the prior video, or you can ask Pursuit for a set of priorities that would be appealing to the chief, based on intersecting their plans with your company's products, and use this content when you bump into the chief at the event. Here's what returns. Hello, this is John Doe from VeryPlate. I understand your department is focused on 1. Integrating license plate reader software with dispatch. 2. Improving violent crime clearance rates in specific precincts. And 3. Reducing drag racing. Our license plate recognition software directly addresses these priorities. May I have a few minutes to explain how? It's super clear how license plate recognition software can assist in all 3 of those areas. Now, your icebreakers with the chief will be super targeted to issues you know he cares about, and that your company solves every day.
Next up, getting access to competitive intel is crucial. Let's take a look at how Pursuit enables FOIAs at scale.
Accessing public sector contract information just got a whole lot easier. Pursuit's all-new FOIA tool is revolutionizing how businesses interact with public entities across the USA. With Pursuit, you can effortlessly submit FOIA requests for final contracts, winning proposals, scoring and evaluation sheets, and all submitted proposals. This comprehensive coverage includes municipalities, counties, K-12 districts, higher education institutions, and special districts nationwide. But here's what sets Pursuit apart. We prioritize your privacy. Our system ensures complete obfuscation of client names in FOIA submissions, allowing you to gather intelligence without concerns about potential sensitivities. We understand that the FOIA process can be complex. Public entities often need to acknowledge receipt of the request, consult with contractors regarding potential redactions, carefully review and prepare the requested documents. Traditionally, this process could take several weeks or even months to complete. Not anymore. Pursuit's innovative approach streamlines this journey, helping you access the information you need more efficiently. Our system is designed to work harmoniously with existing FOIA procedures while optimizing the process wherever possible. But we don't stop at submission. Pursuit tracks the progress of your FOIA requests, providing regular updates throughout the process. And when the valuable information arrives, our AI-powered analysis tools help you quickly extract the most relevant insights for your business. With Pursuit's FOIA tool, you're not just keeping pace, you're setting the standard for informed decision-making in the public sector landscape. Ready to enhance your approach to public sector intelligence? It's time to pursue success with Pursuit, where efficiency meets insight.
Next up, security. Lots of people say that security and privacy is their number one feature, but Pursuit is actually living those words. We're less than a year old, and we've already started our SOC 2 process. We want to prove to our customers and to our potential customers that Pursuit is a partner who takes security and privacy seriously.
In the world of public sector intelligence, data security isn't just a feature, it's a foundation. At Pursuit, we're taking bold steps to ensure your trust is well placed and your data is fortress strong. We're excited to announce that Pursuit is currently undergoing a SOC 2 Type 1 audit, but we're not stopping there. As soon as practicable, we'll be following up with a SOC 2 Type 2 audit. This isn't just about checking boxes, it's about setting a new standard in our industry. To streamline our compliance efforts, we've partnered with Drata, an automated compliance platform. This means we're not just meeting standards, we're living them, day in and day out. But what does this mean for you? It means we've rolled out best practices across the board. Robust access control, cloud infrastructure monitoring, multi-factor authentication, state-of-the-art endpoint security, regular vulnerability scanning, end-to-end data encryption, rigorous change management protocols, comprehensive auditing and logging, and ongoing employee training plus policies. To further validate our security posture, we've engaged a third-party penetration testing firm. Because when it comes to your data, we believe in trust through verification. As we continue to expand our product, know that your security remains at the forefront of everything we do. With Pursuit, you're not just accessing intelligence, you're accessing it through one of the most secure platforms in the industry.
Yes, today we shipped a lot of really awesome new stuff, but we also went back and improved our core, contacts and entity intelligence. We've released 4 major updates that are guaranteed to help your team drive more public sector demand.
Pursuit has massively upgraded its existing contacts and entity intelligence over the past 3 months. Here's how. Pursuit now tracks over 150 different technology vendors who sell to local government. You can easily create lists of public entities running Tyler Technologies, Civic Plus, Revise, BSNA, Central Square, Payit, DocuSign, Remind. You can also exclude certain technologies as well. For example, not Webflow. Pursuit now also offers super precise targeting capability to include or exclude titles. Imagine you're targeting Director of Business, Finance Director, Treasurer, Controller, Finance Officer, Financial Services, Administrative Services, but not Assistant, CPA, Accountant, Analyst, Coordinator, or Secretary. It's a snap, and then you'll get back contacts that exactly match the campaigns you send. Pursuit released its all-new confidence scores in the spring release. One of the biggest requests from our customers was to know the reasoning behind the score. So we added that. For each contact, it's like you have a human analyst writing a short summary of why the contact received the score they did. This reasoning helps contextualize the score and can immediately tell you if someone retired, changed jobs, or was recently promoted. Pursuit's account scoring models that predict win probabilities also received an upgrade in the summer release. Federal agencies publish tons of data. The Department of Education releases data on every K-12 school. HUD releases data on housing, FBI on crime, NOAA on weather, EMA on municipal bonds, and census for population. For every company selling into the public sector, there are federal databases that they need to comprehend. Pursuit makes that super easy. We now ingest many of these databases into our machine learning win probability models. Furthermore, Pursuit's contacts product directly feeds its win probabilities model. If a city hired a new chief information officer or a new chief data officer, this could be helpful if you're selling to those profiles. Similarly, if a superintendent was just hired, maybe you should reach out in 3 months. If a school district has an MTSS or absenteeism department, that might change your win probabilities. Win probability is so critically important because it allows companies selling into the public sector to actually allocate time and attention to the accounts that have the greatest likelihood of closing.
Next up, we're 3 months into working with Granicus on an all-new machine learning account scoring model. Since then, we've deployed it with a ton of GovTech companies. If you don't have a data-driven approach to account prioritization, please come talk to us. In a world where sales efficiency matters again, you can't afford to have reps investing their time into deals that are unlikely to close. Thanks to the entire team at Granicus for partnering with Pursuit. Most specifically, we want to say thanks to Drew Leach and to Mark Hyde for giving us a shot. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Drew, VP of Business Development at Granicus. All right, well, joining me today is my buddy Drew Leach, who runs business development, VP of Business Development at Granicus. Drew, thanks for being with us today. I appreciate you joining.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Happy to be chatting here.
So maybe for starters, I know most people know who Granicus is, but could you just, for anyone who doesn't, could you give us a brief history of the company, the types of customers you work with, and the solutions you offer?
Yeah, so Granicus, we partner with actually over 6,000 agencies and local governments in all levels of government, federal, state, local, in the US, UK, Australia, and abroad. And with the purpose of helping government better engage and better serve the public, and doing that through connected technology and services. in order to provide a more unified customer experience that a lot of us are used to working with other sort of B2B type companies,
Right.
trying
Yeah.
to bring that to the public sector. Yeah, so
That's awesome.
yeah, you can think like driving awareness through engagement programs and communication programs, providing more seamless experience on a website, go to a city website, be able to access actual digital services, or just providing more transparency through city council meetings, allowing people to access that remotely, and helping on the back end streamlining a lot of those processes.
Amazing. So all the citizen interaction sort of stuff, whether that is through email or from the websites, transcripts, the meetings, things like that. So Granicus
Yep.
powers a lot of that stuff, which is awesome. Like I think to your point, it's more important than ever that local governments are able to interact with their constituents in a way that constituents are used to interacting with other companies too. So if I
Absolutely.
have my facts straight, Granicus is private equity backed. Couple
Yep.
of great PE firms own the company, and after, if I recall correctly, after they made those investments, there was a step change in how you all thought about account scoring. So, could you tell us a little bit about that? And also, I think really importantly, it'd be helpful to understand why, from your perspective, the board and the executive team thought account scoring was so critical to the business.
Yeah, of course. So obviously, selling the public sector, we definitely had the ability to identify what our TAM, our total addressable market is. But for our exec team, our board, it was very important to develop an account scoring model to within our addressable market, be able to identify the accounts that were actually much more likely to win with, accounts that have a higher propensity to buy. It was a really important initiative with our exec team because it's about efficiency, right? You want to spend time in the accounts, you want to spend money working with the accounts that are much more likely to buy versus spending time in accounts that, if you can be able to prove out through data, is, less likely to buy. That's where we may be wasting time that we can spend more efficiently.
Yeah. No, I love that model. And I've seen it work in other verticals as well. And I think the key point is not treating every customer the same and like peanut buttering kind of a
Right.
moderate level of investment into everybody, but instead really being able to invest in understanding and building relationships, understanding the context of the people who are most likely to close. So it just allows your team to be way more dynamic and actually invested in the conversations that matter. Um,
Yep.
so I love that theory, that thesis. I mean, I think you guys have been doing this for a number of years now. I think I don't remember when did you guys first start doing that? Do you remember what
Yes,
year?
we built our first sort of account scoring model back in 2017 actually, and revised it a bit in 2019. But I'll say it did become stale over the years, and
Hmm.
there's just so many new capabilities, especially with AI and machine learning, that we weren't really tapping into. Our model kind of, it was a static model and it became stale over the years.
Yeah,
Kind of saw a lot less engagement with it from the sales and go-to-market teams. Starting to see that our what were high target accounts weren't actually the difference between sort of high target and low target was kind of starting to balance out and losing
yeah,
that trend that we want to see. So we knew
yeah.
that we needed to revisit this.
Well, for sure. I mean, when I think about how uh, frankly, how much simpler it's gotten over the years to be able to do fancy sounding machine learning models, really the tools and the infrastructure to be able to pull them off quickly has gotten so much better.
Yeah, I mean,
That I
talking about
think,
efficiency, I was doing an Excel spending days on end on what you probably
yeah,
were able to do in 5 seconds. So yeah, absolutely.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also I think the data that's available today is just, better than ever. And so like, the difference between something like a regression and, an ensemble of boosted trees is like that's a big difference in terms of the sophistication of the model. And also the data that you can feed into it. And in your case, you guys had great data on lots of wins and also lots of closed loss deals that could teach the model and help it pattern recognize. At the end of the day, that I think is the cool part, right? Is we're able to take data from your CRM, combine it with data that's available on the websites of each of these individual entities, and combine it also with data that's available from federal agencies, throw it all into one thing and have it pattern match and spit back like, here are the places that your sales team should be investing more in. Which is probably a good opportunity to talk about some of the results that you're seeing from it. I know there's probably some stuff that you don't want to share, but from whatever you feel comfortable sharing, could you walk us through that? Like what have the results been to date as far as you've seen it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been extremely impressed so far. I know it's sort of early days of us working with Pursuit to build this out, but the results have been extremely impressive. We're now able to identify high target accounts for us that have sort of double the win rate from what our average is, and just able to really identify the accounts where we can win. But
Yeah,
just as importantly, though, we're able to find the accounts that are kind of the lower scoring that we shouldn't be spending time with. And it's like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, we're spending like 25-30% of our time in our pipeline accounts with sort of an abysmal win rate where
yeah,
we can now that we can see that, we can shift focus to where we should be spending our time and effort.
yeah. Totally. And I think one of the things that not just in talking with Granicus, but many other companies who sell into the public sector, you know, one thing that drives win rates is like, do you have accounts who are in proximity, to these ones that
Yeah.
you've won? And so I think over time, this is kind of gets into the cool part of it being dynamic, right? Since we are integrated with various different systems that Granicus has, as more deals are closed won, that'll update the model. As new data becomes available, whether it's from a federal agency or a public entity publishes a new budget or a new strategic plan or a new ACFR, or they have a new board meeting transcript, or they hire a CIO, right? Whereas before they didn't have a CIO.
Yep.
All those things can now be part of this model that all that's subtracted away from the sales team. The sales team doesn't need to know the individual mechanics of it. They just need to know this is an A.
Right. Make this very simple for the sellers,
Right.
right? Go after these accounts, avoid these accounts. But on the back end, I mean, this that's kind of the beauty of working with public sector too, is there is so much data available. Like
Right.
government is transparent about what's going on. There's census data, there's data in the strategic plans, there's budget information, like all that stuff is out there. And again, that our challenge was how do we find a way to actually gather all this information and model it in a way that makes sense. And so that's where Pursuit has come in and really have helped us make strides over the last few months here. But sky's kind of now the limit with what we can continue to do and build into the model and use to strengthen it, grow
Yeah.
into new markets and continue to make our sales team efficient.
Yeah, totally. And I think like right now, I don't know the exact stats, but there's somewhere around 50 different variables that
Yeah.
matter, right?
No, we were using like 5 before, so it's like it
Yeah.
is now exploded in terms of the potential.
Yeah. So it's cool to be able to track those, and I think we'll get even more fancy with it as time goes on.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a moment, Drew, about like how the sales team uses this stuff. But I'm curious at two levels. First is kind of like a manager or executive level, right? Because I know there's a bunch of stuff related to, how you think about territories or quotas or engagement models, strategy stuff. And then there's like the blocking and tackling, the stuff that on the other hand sellers are doing every day and how they're using it. Can you share some thoughts on how each of those two groups within your company might use the system?
Yeah, from a strategy standpoint, you mentioned it, right? It's building out territories that make sense. Not just, we use population heavily before, but this is now really telling us how we can build out our territories. How do we incentivize the teams to go after, high target accounts? Just better understanding the market in general, what it looks like, where are we seeing strength versus weakness, and how can we approach that?
Yeah.
Our go-to-market plans, our marketing strategy can now be based more heavily around, ABM, like how do we target these accounts better, instead of trying to engage with everyone with the same level of effort. And being able to also, we pump this data straight into Salesforce, so we can
Right.
actually look at our pipeline today and be able to get a health check on it. How are we doing? How do we make sure that we then drive the right behaviors with the sellers, with the BDRs, in order to target the right accounts, incentivize going after high target accounts, showing the data to them so that they believe it and they see it. Like that helps drive the adoption. Um, and even over the last few weeks, made strides in meeting with different folks across go-to-market and showing them
Yep.
what we've been able to build and just seeing the reaction of like, all right, let's go all in. Like, how do we adopt this and make this a part of our strategy
Yeah.
from senior level down to reps?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love all of that. And I think the points that you made about the incentives is critical. And also like the open doors that this now creates for account-based marketing, right?
Yep.
I think those are really cool points, and I hadn't thought of those. The other one that I think has come up on, and this is more of a point for sellers, is, and we saw this the other day for a different client. It was really cool where like if a BDR books a meeting and they get a question back from, or I guess it's even before they book a meeting. But if they send an outbound email, they get a response back from the person that is actually like to give a legit answer might take you 30 or 60 minutes, right? And at that stage of the cycle, the typical reaction is, am I really going to invest 30 or 60 additional minutes to come up with this like, precise answer to this person's one question as it relates to some weeded systems question, some systems
Right.
integration question that is totally bespoke to them. But if you're able to look at them and say, this is actually an A or a B account, like you might be now willing to
Worth
spend more
time.
time, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
And
that's
on
really cool.
And on the opposite end too, we get inbound leads obviously, and or there will be times that we do reach out or engage with low target accounts, but knowing that that's the case, we can make sure right from the get-go that we're asking the right qualifying questions to make sure it's the right fit for both ends, right? Like, and we don't want to
100%.
waste our potential customers' time either. If it's
Totally.
not a fit, let's know that early on, and let's
100%.
dig in a little deeper early on so that we're not going, farther down the line, multiple meetings, and then
Yeah.
realizing, hey, this isn't a right fit. So
Yeah.
uh, it's efficiency on both ends.
I love that point. That's such a good one. And it made me think too, the opportunity down the road, if you're understanding that your best fit customers are these, but as a company, you're like, hey, we want to start making progress in this segment over here. What's different about them? What could we do to change the game? I think that might inform product stuff. It might
Right.
also
Yep.
inform customer success. So I guess in the last couple of minutes we have together, the two other questions I wanted to ask you. One is this first one is about surprises. Like, has there been anything that either to you, I mean, you've been looking at this data for years, or the execs or the sellers, like anything that jumped out in the recommendations of the model that people thought was counterintuitive?
I mean, honestly, the biggest surprise is how many different variables can kind of correlate together to show a strong propensity to buy.
Mm,
That honestly is been the biggest surprise. I'd say some of the other variables that have been interesting and things that we were, make sense, but now that we're actually able to do it, everyone's really excited, right? It's like taking latitude, longitude of an account and mapping that to accounts that we've won before. And we know public sector, that's really important.
right,
Or accounts that we've lost before,
right,
distance to metropolitan areas, like things like that that we were just not able to do before.
yeah,
All the different housing data and things from census is very interesting. But I know one that has gotten people really excited is the ability to, I think you mentioned before, see, hey, this account has a digital transformation type title
right,
or a
yeah,
CIO, which they didn't before.
right,
And we know that those types of personas are ones that we're able to engage with and understand the importance of sort of the digital transformation journey that we're helping our customers go on. So that being able to build that into the model is really exciting.
yeah. So I want to make sure I understand exactly what you're saying. So basically, you talked about the version from like 2017 and then the update in 2019 that had, you said five, but I think maybe seven or 10 different variables in it. what you're saying now is the thing that jumps out at you is how much more predictive power comes when you're taking it from like 5 or 10 data points to like 50, basically. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's kind of classic machine learning AI stuff, right?
Right, and before it was all about narrowing. We were thinking we want to narrow down the variables to the ones that make the most sense, but seeing actually the opposite, that's like, no, if we combine these 50 variables and use the missing piece, right, was using machine learning to be able to actually model all that data together to tell us how this is, how we can use this to score accounts. That was the biggest piece that we were missing.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think it's a great point. Last question, then I'll let you get back to your day. It's the magic wand question. So if you think about, here we are, middle of August, where do you think, because of this stuff, like what do you hope is true in the next 12 months? And that might be like ways that your team has adopted the data, or, I'm just curious, what's your vision look like for the next 6 or 12 months?
Yeah, I think twofold. One is, and you're kind of just talking about it, the adoption piece. I think our last CapDB model, everyone kind of knew what it was, and oh yeah, I use CapDB, but when we actually dug in, that was not really the case. There wasn't really that the adoption and people believing in the data to use it. Where I want to see by the end of this year, like this is not just even go to market, like products using this, customer success, like. Everyone is using this to better understand our market and use that for strategic planning. And then ultimately the results, right? Like the main goal of this is let's improve the quality of our pipeline, to improve our win rates, to improve our bookings at the end of the day, so that we can help more of the public sector better engage with the residents they serve.
Absolutely. That's what gets us super fired up, is that very thing, right? Is like, and that's honestly, it's why we started this company.
It was our first conversation. I think that's when we knew it was a match right from the beginning.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, it's been such a pleasure working with you and your team. You guys are phenomenal. You're ahead of the game, and really appreciate your time today, Drew. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. It's been great working with Pursuit so far. We're looking forward to the future partnership.
In closing, I want to express how fortunate we feel to work in an industry where we admire our customers, the public sector contractors, and their customers, governments, and their constituents so much. Every day we wake up loving to work for you. For those contractors out there, we'd love to hear about the challenges you face selling into the public sector. And if you're on the public sector side, we'd also love to hear about what you would think would be relevant for us to know. We're all ears. Feel free to email me directly at mike@pursuit.us. That's all we have for today, but we'll see you back here when the leaves are hitting the ground in the fall. Thanks for joining.